This is the ultimate camera test of Pixel 7a versus Pixel 3a. A 4-year-old difference. Is it worth the upgrade? Let's go to work. This is a comparison 4 years in the making, and I can tell you that there's a lot of changes that happened on Pixel phones, but one thing remained the same: great image quality from the cameras. The colors on these two phones are almost the same. I mean, if you're upgrading because of the color profile, you might want to stick around for the Pixel 8a or considering the flagship Pixel 8. Because like any other Pixel phones, because of the computational photography, all images looks and feels the same. I guess the only difference I can see are the white balance. The newer Pixel 7a is a bit warmer than Pixel 3a. Also, the colors are more saturated and the main sensor has a wider field of view. I guess the dead giveaway is the ultra-wide lens because Pixel 7a has dual camera system. This is the audio test of these two phones, and starting with Pixel 3a, there's no speech enhancement before 4 years ago, but I think the audio quality of Pixel 3a is good enough. And this is the audio performance of the new Google Pixel 7a with speech enhancement, and this is good for vlogger. This is the active stabilization on Pixel 7a. There's no stabilization like this 4 years ago on Pixel 3a, but I think the older phone is holding up really good. Testing the slow motion, this is a 5-second slow motion test, and this is 1/4. And this is super slow motion, or 1/8. I think the newer Pixel 7a has more details on the ceiling compared to Pixel 3a. Both phones are a bit delayed in snapping a photo because of the burst HDR shot, although Pixel 7a is a little faster than Pixel 3a. And this results in a really good well-balanced image on flaring. This also affects the highlights, and if you look outside the window, you will see that there's a lot of information on both phones. And because of the HDR shot, again, the dynamic range is really good on both phones, but I particularly like the exposure on Pixel 7a on challenging situations. Pixel 7a is brighter than 3a. Both sensors are really sharp, although there's a difference in megapixel. You wouldn't feel it on the 12 megapixel shootout. Of course, although Pixel 7a is shooting on 64 megapixel, it pixel bins on 12 megapixel. The only difference is the digital crop. There's more details on the newer 7a. And like the sharpness, there's not much of a difference on the details, although there's more contrast and shadows on the newer Pixel 7a. I think we're done inspecting the details of the images and the difference on the video side. Now we will talk about the video stabilization and the quality of these two phones. We will show it one by one for you to see the full resolution, and then side by side for comparison. Starting with phone number 1 on a blind test, and the colors are really good, and even the stabilization while running. And this is phone number 2 on a blind test, and I think the dead giveaway on this video is it's a little bit more muted than the other phone, and honestly a bit jerky while running. And this is the side-by-side test, and I can see that the video on the left is better, and that's the newer Pixel 7a. This is the advantage of the new Pixel 7a because it has dual camera setup. It has the ultra-wide lens. Compared to the single sensor of Pixel 3a, again, the camera setup is a little bit outdated on the older Pixel phones. So if you want to shoot an extra wide view, then go for the newer Pixel 7a. The ultra-wide lens also gives you better stabilization compared to the more compressed main sensor of Pixel 3a. Now let's check the video quality and video stabilization with the subject. If you like to vlog using any of these phones, the rear cameras are your best bet in terms of stabilization. Right now we're showing the Pixel 7a. And this is the older Pixel 3a, and I think with a little bit of color grading on the footage, it will be closer to what the new Pixel 7a would look like. This is the ultra-wide look on the new Pixel 7a, and again, for vlogging, you will be able to show more on the video. Watch yourself, huh? And going for a side-by-side, this is the biggest difference on the video side because of the dual camera setup of the new Pixel 7a. The Google Pixel 3a was released 4 years ago. It has Snapdragon 670 with 4 gigs of RAM, and honestly, if you don't play games, this specs is good enough for everyday use. It's using the Sony IMX363 sensor, a 12.2 megapixel sensor that's being used on flagship Pixel 5 and last generation Pixel 6a. Well, the Pixel 7a is the latest iteration of A series from Google. And with Tensor Gen 2 and 8 gigs of RAM, twice as Pixel 3a, this phone will arguably perform the same as Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro. According online, it's using the Sony IMX787 sensor, a 64 megapixel sensor that will provide more detailed images compared to a typical 12 megapixel setup. Pricing will be different because Pixel 3a is dirt cheap, around less than $100, while Pixel 7a is one of the best camera phone with an affordable price tag. So yeah, with those specs, who do you think is the better phone? Portrait mode are very good on both phones, while the subject separation is not that accurate as what you can see on Samsung Galaxy phones, but if you're not pixel peeping, it's good enough. I noticed that the colors are also different on the newer version. It provides a warmer and more exposed subject compared to the older Pixel 3a. But honestly, if you post this on social media with a little bit of editing, you may achieve the same image compared to the newer Pixel 7a. And checking the selfie camera, it looks the same, but Pixel 7a provides a creamier background blur than Pixel 3a. Night shot is also good on both phones, but there are subtle differences in terms of image quality. Pixel 7a controls the noise better compared to the outdated sensor of Pixel 3a. I like the more toned down look and not overly saturated look on the new Pixel 7a, and as the people say, it's natural looking. The colors on the sky is also better on the new Pixel 7a, and just the overall feel, it's more contrasty and darker, I should say, but it retains more details. And because it's dual camera setup, even the ultra-wide sensor also has the night shot capability. Lastly, the low light video starting with the selfie camera, and I will let you decide on this. Which do you think is better? Watch yourself, huh? You make it look good. And this is the low-light video recording using the rear camera 4K 30 FPS. The Pixel 7a is more neutral looking than the warmer Pixel 3a. So this is the ultimate shootout of Pixel 3a and Pixel 7a. The new Google Pixel 7a is definitely an upgrade over Pixel 3a. It has the newer processor, newer design, and has better battery life than the older Pixel 3a. But if you value old tech that performs similar to the newer devices, I should say on the camera performance, most especially the image quality on a well-lit situation, Pixel 3a is still a good camera phone in 2023. And there you go, hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to compare these two phones in our channel, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.